Well, good evening. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for Midtown Scholar for hosting us tonight. My name is Andy Hughes, and I'm one of the co-chairs for the Dog Park Project for Friends of Midtown Beautification Committee. And this is my partner in crime, Annie Leonhardt, who you'll hear from in a minute. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce the Friends of Midtown President, Kate Moyer.
Hi everybody. As Andy said, my name's Kate Moyer. I'm the president of Friends of Midtown and pretty new to that role. But I have had the pleasure of working with that organization for the last 2 years in a membership chair position and then as vice president. I have also had the pleasure of working with both Annie and Andy as they have very gallantly kept at this, this cause for a very long time. And if you haven't already heard, we are at the point where we are going to be opening a dog park in very short order, and that is an incredibly exciting thing, both as a dog owner in the city of Harrisburg, but also as a Friends of Midtown board member. It's an initiative that we are so excited to get kicked off, and I really appreciate all of you being here today. I do have to leave at 6:30. I sing with a chorus, the Central PA Women's Chorus, and our practice for the first of the season starts this evening out in Colonial Park, and it takes forever to get there. And so if you have any questions, you can email me at info@friendsofmidtown.org. I get those emails in my personal email inbox and try to answer all of them. So I'm happy to answer any questions from an organizational standpoint about our plans for the future. The one thing I would like to say is that while we're at the point where we fundraise to open the park, we are not at the point where we have fundraised to maintain the park for the 2-year agreement that we have on the land that we'll be using, which they'll share all the details on in just a few minutes. So I encourage everyone to continue to contribute, continue to come to our events as we have them. We required about $8,000 to get started. We require about $20,000 total to maintain the park for 2 years. So that leaves us with another fundraising goal. It's not over yet. We need your perseverance to stay intact for a few more years. But I am really, really excited. I cannot wait. This would be the first public dog park in the city of Harrisburg, and I'm really proud that it's happening in our neighborhood. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email, and thank you for coming.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Really, the purpose of tonight's town hall is just to do 3 things. Really, to generate awareness about this new project in our local community, but also to present some basic information about the park so that you have a sense of what to get excited about. And then third, to seek some input as we continue putting the final touches on the park. So that's what we're going to do today. If you have questions, if you wouldn't mind holding them till the end, we're going to do about a 10 to 15 minute presentation about all the details to try and answer any baseline questions, and then we'll open it up to questions and input from you all. But again, thank you so much for coming. So what we're trying to do, as Kate referenced, is a temporary 2-year dog park in the city of Harrisburg. The idea of a dog park has been around for many years, certainly before Annie and I moved to Harrisburg about 3 years ago. But in January of 2015, we, as dog owners of a 55-pound piece of joy named Shelby, we were enjoying walks along the river, but being the bundle of joy that she is, we recognized we needed some extra space for her since we don't have a yard where we live. And so we went to one of the best local organizations here in Harrisburg, which is Friends of Midtown. It's a true community-based organization that really makes things happen. And we were welcomed with warm hands and open hearts to pursue the idea. A few people said, you know, that idea's been tried before, you know, good luck, but if you put some will and perseverance behind it, you can do it. So Annie and I formed a committee along with the beautification committee and put together a plan. We sought lots of input from local folks, but we started a long conversation with the city as well, who from the get-go has been incredibly supportive, and if only we had more land, it probably would have happened a long time ago. We then identified different locations that could be different sites for the dog park, and we ended up working with a local commercial real estate organization called Vartan Group, and they generously have provided the opportunity for us to use a lot that they own on 7th Street and Granite. 1730 North 7th Street is the specific address. And we've worked a contract with them for the next 2 years, so as soon as we open the park later this fall, we'll be building the park there. It will be a half-acre lot with 2 different areas. One for small dogs, which is designated as dogs who are 30 pounds or less. Hey Dave, welcome. Hey. It's the who's who of Harrisburg. So we'll have a small area for dogs that are less than 30 pounds, and then a large dog area. And both will have separate entry gates so that they'll provide greater access. We have worked with an organization called Pet Playgrounds, which is a really incredible organization that works with residents and cities to design fencing primarily for pets and dogs. And what made this a workable solution is that a lot of their fencing is actually movable, and it provides not only the sturdy support that you need, but it also looks very nice as well, but can be moved. And since we are working as a temporary dog park, we thought that was going to be important for us without actually putting a lot of stakes in the ground and such. And it's quite affordable as well. So we've been working with Pet Playgrounds, and we have identified the specific type of fencing that we'll need. It will be 5 foot, and Annie, do you remember the total lineage of feet?
750 to
700 linear feet, which we had to learn what that meant. But basically, that is going to cover half-acre of plot there. As Kate mentioned, the fundraising has been something that's been essential to making this happen. We had a $20,000 goal, and we're still working towards that. We have raised enough money to purchase the fence and make that happen. I think before I turn it over to Annie to talk more details, I just want to talk about the why. Like, why have a dog park in this city? And there's a couple reasons that I think are really important to note. One is that any evening that you walk around Midtown, you'll notice there's a lot of dogs, and so we know that there's a need from our residents. I think another reason is community building. There's certainly the need for more public spaces in this town to bring people from all different walks of life together, and I think dogs, especially dogs like Ozzy down here, bring people together. Oftentimes when I'm walking my dog Shelby, people come up to me and say, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" They don't even ask me my name. So it really brings people together in a way. I think it's also good for healthy living to provide more park spaces where people can come to walk their dogs to, and also we think it's going to be helpful for economic development. I think a lot of people who are looking for cities that are livable and that are enjoyable, parks such as dog parks, I think, can be really helpful for that as well. So I think lots of good reasons that a dog park will be good. We're hoping that after this 2 years, we'll be able to take a lot of data about the use of the park and continue to pursue more opportunities beyond the 2 years for a long-term dog park. So that's the basics, and I'll turn it over for Annie for the specifics.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming. It's wonderful to see so many people out here, and I can't believe this day has arrived. Actually, when we were informed that we hit our year 1 fundraising goal, I was like, great. And I was like, oh crap, what do we do now? And now, it's time to activate this plan. So sorry we didn't have a fancier print of where we're planning on placing the dog park, but as Andy mentioned, it's the border of Midtown is 7th Street, North 7th Street. So we're towards the edge, but it's still walkable from anywhere in Midtown and downtown. It's under a mile from anywhere in downtown. It's about a half mile from anywhere in Midtown. And the purpose of the project, as Andy mentioned, was to make a safe, enjoyable, attractive place for people to bring their dogs. And the purpose of the project is it is a pilot for the city, and it is temporary. It's 2 years. The rationale for why is when we approached the city of Harrisburg, actually, the mayor, the planning bureau, and said we're interested, the redevelopment authority, we're interested in starting a dog park. We received a lot of enthusiasm, and in particular, the redevelopment authority said we have a bunch of lots you could look at, and they were all pretty small. We looked for best practices online for other public dog parks, and half acre was the minimum required. So we had to look at some private landowners and private lots, and we just kind of forged a relationship with Vartam, and they were very generously allowed us use of a couple of their lots, actually. We selected this one here. In terms of the fundraising history, as was mentioned, our lofty goal was 20,000 for 2 years operation. We're just over 8,000 now, and that allows us to launch the park, buy the fencing, buy the insurance for the year, and take care of some other odds and ends to launch it. And that really came from donations. Most of them were from individuals, so there's a lot of heart for this project. But it's astounding to me because it's a lot of money, and we're a small community. So we did get a couple of big checks. Manacor was a great donor for us. The Bridge Midtown generously put on a fundraising event for us, so thank you, Allie, and the Bridge. And then the rest of it came from individuals. So we're going to continue fundraising, as was mentioned, to fund year 2, but we've gotten the big chunks fundraised. A lot of the questions we've been getting has to do with risk. Dog parks are inherently risky. Parks are inherently risky. Anytime you walk into a park, you could fall down, or I don't know, twist your ankle, or who knows what. So we really have a strategy to manage risk that has 3 components. The first one's fencing. As Andy had mentioned, we're using flexible fencing from pet playgrounds that is designed for pets because it's difficult to climb. That's the advantage with flexible fencing. It's also very strong. It withstands 1,800 pounds of pressure. So it's very difficult to knock over. Yet it is temporary, so we could pick this up and move it if we need to. We can construct it ourselves, and we can deconstruct it ourselves. So it's unique and really special in that regard. It'll be about 5 feet tall, and that was within the recommended height for a public dog park fence. Signage is another huge piece of our management. There are going to be quite a few rules that are going to be posted on the dog park in quite a few places. Some of the park rules include, and they're on your flyer too, but dogs have to be licensed, and the license has to be visible. They have to have the rabies vaccination that has to be visible as a tag you get. You put on your dog collar. They need to be spayed and neutered. Puppies under 6 months aren't allowed. This is really all for dog safety. They need to be vaccinated, showing no signs of illness. We don't want people to come with 6 and 8 dogs at a time. We're going to require that people have no more than 3 in the park at one time, and that's really because the more animals you cram into a small space, the more I guess dis at ease they may get, and the more it's more of a safety measure. No food, no human or dog food would be allowed in the park, and that's because sometimes dogs get competitive over food, so we want to minimize the risk of that. We would require owners to be with their dogs while they're in the park. You wouldn't leave your kid hopefully in a park by him or herself, so it's the same thing. Owners must be present, and we also ask that owners be responsible. Just like if you took your child to a park, I suspect you'd be watching your child the whole time. We expect owners, and we ask owners to watch their dogs at the same time and be aware of their surroundings. There's always a risk of an unsocialized dog coming into a park. There's a really great dog park in Gettysburg that's owned by the city. It's in a city park, and even there, occasionally you'll see a dog that just looks scared. And there's signs that it's not a dog that's interested in engaging with other dogs. And it's good to just be aware of your surroundings, and if you're uncomfortable, you should leave the park. And so we really want people to take kind of responsibility and ownership as they enjoy that park. As was mentioned, the park design will include an unleashing station. So basically, you go in a gate. Well, there are 2 sides. There's the small dog park and the large dog park side. And then there'll be 2 interior corridors where you can go in, take the leash off, and then enter the main park. Another rule that we recently decided on as an organization of Friends of Midtown is around age. There are going to be age restrictions for the park, and this is because it's not monitored. And this is an 18 and up park. So there are no minors in the park, and that's purely a risk play. Okay. The last pillar of our safety plan has to do around just education and awareness. So we want people to enjoy the park and have fun. So we plan on using social media, events like this to educate folks for how to best take advantage of a park like this, games they can play with their dogs, safety measures, as I mentioned, like if if you feel uncomfortable in the park, you should probably leave. We want to encourage people to, if they see people breaking the rules, to say something if they're comfortable. I think overall too, we want to promote health and wellness from the park, so we want to give people ideas for how to use the park for their benefit. Okay, so that's the safety part. So basically, we've also called you guys here today to help us fulfill our mission to not only launch this park, but to operate a safe and fun park for the full 2 years. We're going to continue fundraising, as was mentioned, so we ask that you please be generous and spread the word, and we'll probably be having more events to fundraise, so please come to those. There is one on Wednesday, so the Harrisburg Senators have offered to hold a fundraiser for us. If you buy tickets to that Wednesday game, through our website, we get a cut of that ticket, so please go online and I'll let you go. And purchase some tickets.
Thank you.
And then also, as you use the park, we, as part of the agreement to make this a pilot for the city, we're going to be collecting data on who uses the park and how they use it. We'll be just capturing learnings, best practices, what works, what doesn't work. And so we ask people who use the park to help gather that data for us. If you see a lot of people in the park, like, whoa, there's 10 people in today, just jot it down, let us know. You can reach the Dog Park Committee when you email dogpark@friendsofmidtown.org. So you can email us for any questions, but also giving feedback on the park as you use it. And I guess finally, I just want to say a thank you to all the people who have made this possible for us. Obviously, Friends of Midtown has been an amazing organization and really committed to community building and economic development in Harrisburg. The Vartan Group has been an amazing partner, very supportive. The mayor's office, the planning bureau, the Berg has been very supportive in providing us press on this. And then our donors, as I mentioned, Manticore and the Bridge, Note, GK Visual, and all the individuals that have really given generously. We just want to say thank you. So I think that's the bulk of what I wanted to share. Are there any questions or comments that people want to make? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I'm curious, as part of the safety component, I'm thinking through, it's unmonitored, we all understand that we enter with risk, but what if we notice a condition or a situation? Mm-hmm. Is the police department aware? Will there will be like a community policing?
The police department is aware. We're starting to engage with them to let them know that the park will be constructed when it'll be up and running. On the rules, on the list, on the rules that are posted at the bottom, it'll say, if there's an emergency or if there's, if there's some kind of danger, call 911 essentially.
Or maybe also include the phone number for animal control.
Okay.
In case there's an extreme situation.
We could do that too. We could definitely do that.
Comes in or something.
Right, if the bear comes in, I can't. As long as it's not more than 1,800 pounds of pressure, we're in good shape.
Will there be a double gate for entry?
Yes.
Okay,
so each side will have a double gate.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do you think it's going to be up and running?
Sure, I didn't mention that. So we're in the middle of kind of the final stages of insurance and contracting. If all goes as expected, we think we could open the park probably the very beginning of October, so in a little over a month. And then we'll be working on an opening event too shortly after the park opens to let people know we're open and they should come.
How long is it going to take you to build the fencing and all of that?
Probably, really just take a day. It depends on how many volunteers we have. The measuring and probably the layout is going to take the longest, but the actual placing the posts, staking them in the ground doesn't take long, probably a couple hours.
Is there any chance that you're going to be there beyond 2 years, or you don't think so?
So the contracting is being worked out right now with Vartan. They've agreed definitely 2 years is fine. At that point we can reevaluate. It depends on what their needs are, really. It's their lot. So if there's a chance they would sell it, there's some development that's going on that side of town, then we would, we'd close up shop and maybe move somewhere else. In the meantime, we could always look for a backup place. So. So, but if there's if they don't foresee any activity in the area after that, we may go year to year. The good news is you can deconstruct this park just as quickly as you put it up.
Okay, there's gonna not be any fee to participate in the park.
No, it's free. It's free and open to the public. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Ongoing maintenance, like cleaning and
Yes.
mowing, is that all volunteer?
Yes, I also did not mention that. Thank you for mentioning it. Yes, so Friends of Midtown volunteers will come through weekly or bi-weekly and just scan and clean up if there's any need for it. Snow removal, lawn mowing, that'll all be taken care of weekly. We are going to have bag dispensers on site for people to use and a trash can. So. But we know that people don't use those perfectly, so. We know we'll need the staff to help them.
Just one other question.
Yeah.
I don't know how other people would feel about this, but in the city that I just moved here from, there's one more rule for dog parks. It ends up being more of a guideline. People violate it, but because the rule is there, if a situation arises, you can point to it, and that's no toys, because some dogs guard toys, and it can start fights.
That's on the list, right?
It is on the list. Yeah, I think we can commit to that. I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you. At most fights I've seen with dogs, I started with toys.
And I just want to say, I'm like thrilled. So the day after I moved all my stuff into my house here was the Salvation Army parking lot fundraiser.
Oh,
So I came, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, and my dogs even got on the news.
All right.
So exciting.
Amazing.
That was a hot, fun day.
Well, maybe they'll be on the news
My
again.
dog was in the kiddie pool.
I think I remember that actually.
Amazing. Anything else? These are an easy crowd. Okay.
Yeah, how do we join the committee or get emails or?
Sure. So after the meeting, you can definitely come talk to us. We'll take your contact information, and then dogpark@friendsofmidtown.org. You can reach out to us if you're interested in volunteering or anything else.
You can also email info or indicate in the email that you send to Dog Park that you'd like to be added to the newsletter email list. Or you can subscribe on our website, which is just friendsofmidtown.org.
On the general newsletter.
We try to include, especially now, moving forward, we are trying to include something about the dog park in all of our communications that go out in our newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter. We usually try to keep it to the big stuff that's happening very now so that people can see it and don't forget about it before it's before it happens.
The newsletter's been great for general
Good, I'm glad.
awareness, and I just meant more like how to get directly involved.
Dogpark@friendsofmidtown.org is the easiest way to do it. We're always looking for committee members, and I know Annie and Andy would love help and have been very good at accepting it.
We definitely need a construction crew. So.
Yeah, some laborers coming up here.
Yeah.
I mean, is Park 10 donating the property?
They're donating use of that property.
So the remaining $12,000, what does that have to go for?
Sure. So the $20,000 was actually, I would say, the highest end goal. We might not. Well, it depends on how we manage maintenance. If we have to hire, that would feed into the $20,000. If we can manage to get a volunteer system set up, then it would probably knock maybe $5,000 off. And we're assuming we're gonna be having to do that just because it gets more and more difficult to raise more money once you're this deep in, and we've tapped out a lot of our friends. So that would be the next kind of item on the list. But the other expenses would be insurance. The other expenses you're asking about are insurance, equipment, signage, trash can,
Any potential repairs and
repairs.
maintenance.
Right, exactly.
It is important to note that those funds from an organizational and administrative standpoint are designated. So as they've come in at dog park events or from somebody who wrote in their note on our website donation form that they wanted this to be for the dog park or whatever, we have kept those funds very expertly by our treasurer Eileen. We've kept track of them. They are designated, which means that we use them exclusively for dog park expenses. So moving forward, if we continue to fundraise and we hit or exceed our goal and we find that our expenses for this temporary park are not necessarily as high as we thought, the good news is that those funds are already earmarked for whatever the next phase of this looks like after 2 years. So those funds are not, Friends of Midtown is not run by paid staff people. It's entirely volunteer run. So those funds are used for that specific initiative. And I think that's important to share with people.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah, please.
Actually, I have two. So you mentioned it's a pilot project for the city. So say after 2 years, it's going great. You've got a great system, a great membership of folks who use the dog park. Is there, and the fact that we have the mayor here, is there a possibility for the city to acquire a lot and designate it as a city-owned and managed dog park?
Yes, that exists. The master plan for Reservoir Park actually calls for a dog park.
Okay.
And so I think we're going to be studying this and seeing how successful it is, and that will help inform us for that. I think the city is committed to doing that. That would be a larger scale, much bigger park.
And one you need a car to get to.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing stopping us from having a series of neighborhood parks as well.
Parks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the great things is a lot of people historically, when this has come up, you didn't mention this, but when we were doing our comprehensive plan, the dog park was one of the most desired suggestions from the community. The number of residents that have dogs in Harrisburg is really an extraordinary number. So it's time for this to happen, but there's a lot of anxiety and concern about issues of safety and liability and insurance. Another place we had thought about a dog park was actually going to be the site of the federal courthouse. We had actually gotten GSA to, before the courthouse was funded, we'd gotten them to agree to letting us do a temporary dog park there, and then all of a sudden they funded the thing. So, and there have been some other lots that have talked about. So yes, we will definitely see this as a pilot for future parks, or hopefully throughout the city.
And then just the second part of my question is, I love that it's public and open for free. Is there ever going to be an opportunity for folks to, say, reserve a certain time of the park to use for, I don't know, say events or things like that for a fee maybe, that could maybe add money to admission?
I think we'd probably be open to that. We would probably want to look at what peak times are. One of the things data we want to gather is what are peak times and what aren't. I mean, I think we have a good idea of when they would be, but yeah, we would work that in so it wouldn't hinder too much usage of the park for the public.
Yeah.
Yep, but yeah, definitely. That'd be great. Yeah.
We'll shoot for the moon question.
All right.
Will there be water service in the dog park?
There will not be running water, but we'll have bowls. And I think as, volunteers come to clean up, maybe they'll, fill the bowls. I've seen other dog parks, like a Cole Memorial Park, people bring water jugs. The users will bring water sometimes. So we suspect the activity and the behavior of folks using the park will be similar to other parks we've seen, which just always seems to be water around.